Okay, we're actually starting now. January 27th. I've immediately forgotten the categories. What are they?
Business and robot.
Robot, that's right. You like psyched me out by saying okay, and I was like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, you keep your eye on the ball, Krista. That's what they always tell you.
There's so much
Yeah, that's
business
what they
news
told
this
me, and
week.
I was really bad at softball.
So the big stories last week were CES, and we got to see what all the big companies were rolling out. When it came to the big CPU companies, they both had impressive presentations, I suppose you could say. But it was pretty clear that under that thin veneer of confidence, there was trouble at Intel. And in fact, they announced a big shakeup with a new CEO, and everybody was saying, is this guy going to have the balls to get in there and start shaking stuff up and really make a change? And it seems like maybe he's just up to the task.
New Intel CEO making waves, rehiring retired CPU architects. So Dr. Cuttress has got a really awesome article here. It sort of goes back. It's like the new CEO, Pat Gelsinger. Yeah, a lot of really exciting stuff going on at Intel in terms of like CPU re-architecture and blah, blah, blah. The thing that's rough here, though, is that these CPU projects, they tend to take 3 years to come to fruition. It's going to take a lot of time. So in 3 years, Intel should be just insane. There's no immediate fix.
Yeah.
There's no
Well, I
quick
mean,
fix.
if the market and the board will be patient for that.
It doesn't seem likely based on our next story.
Yeah. So Intel, again, you got to shake things up. You got to do something. You got to try and get on top of this supply chain issue. So they're changing up some of their foundry stuff.
Intel is outsourcing Core i3 production to TSMC's 5 nanometer process. Yeah, you heard that right. 2021, probably the second half of 2021, TSMC is going to make Intel microprocessors. Now, Intel and TSMC actually go back a long time. A lot of people get that wrong. TSMC has been making stuff for Intel since time immemorial. Chipsets, auxiliary chipsets, stuff like that. Not really CPUs. Well, actually, yes, CPUs, but not like that. So it is different, but it's also the same. So it's not like this is an untried business relationship or Intel doesn't know about TSMC's production process or anything like that. But Intel securing 5 nanometer production capacity in 2021, that's interesting for a lot of reasons.
And the new CEO, obviously everybody's hanging on his words. They want to know what he has to say. And I thought this was a great quote. And one of the things that maybe will give you a little bit of hope if you're a big fan of Intel is that this is sort of signifying the move away from guys in charge who don't understand technology to old school hardcore chip guy.
Intel has to be better than, quote, lifestyle company, unquote, Apple at making CPUs, says new CEO. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what a succinct way to say that. We've been saying that for years. So Intel's answer to the M1 has to be good. And so far, Intel working together with Microsoft to make like the Surface, it's awesome, but it's not M1 awesome, which it really does pain me to say that.
Imagining any hardware company is like a lifestyle company. I mean, I get what he's saying, but I'm imagining like you open up your new CPU box and there's like sprigs of lavender in it. Oh, it's beautiful.
That's basically the iPad unboxing experience, Krista.
But the thing you're missing there, Krista, is that Apple users don't unbox CPUs. They take that step out of it as well. So, yeah. And Google, this is funny because for 3 weeks now, we've been talking about this, and we're always like, oh, they can't last much longer. This is going to get them. They're going to have to do something. And Google's just like, I know, make us.
There's still no sign of privacy labels for most Google iOS apps. As I was kind of hinting at in the last episode, Chrome Update 89 fixes a number of bugs, which I am waiting on, and that was scheduled to drop on Wednesday. It did not.
So, yeah, they are very serious about this privacy label stuff. I don't know. What do we think the end game is here? Is it just to wait as long as possible, or do they hope to turn it around somehow?
I think that Google is doing some major refactoring under the hood to try to avoid some of the labels.
I would hate to be on that, like that developer on that project. It's like, oh, dude, we can't remove all this.
Yeah. It's like, we want it to be red, but we don't actually want you to be able to specify the color red using the hexadecimal code. Can you specify the color red some other way?
I want to draw a red line, but I want you to use green ink.
Yeah. This is
What?
That's basically yeah. That's where we are. That's pretty much where we are.
So NBC News is doing this new thing where they do live posting, and then they take an overarching topic and they feed updates, and then you can link to the update, and then it just automatically scrolls. I hate this. This is so terrible, but they've done it. So this is all a big inauguration thing. But the little nugget that we want to see is way down here. That's about Amazon.
NBC News. Amazon has offered to help Biden with the vaccine distribution because apparently they've inherited a non-existent vaccine distribution system. And so Amazon is like, well, we're good at building things. We'll help.
And they certainly have the infrastructure, don't they?
Yeah.
We'll yet to see if the government will take them up on that.
How long is it going to take them to distribute 100 million vaccines? Oh, yeah. No.
They're saying best case
Overnight
is like maybe by the end of fall, we're done. Or we're at a point where, it's okay. Look at this. Look how stupid this is. So like, what?
I don't have that story, I don't think, in my list. So
No,
I can't see it.
No, you do. It scrolled to the top. Don't worry about it.
You have to click see 7
Oh.
new posts to experience the full depth of insanity. This is not like whatever user experience architect came up with that. Not good. Not good.
And people linking to your articles and getting confused. Yeah, it's a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, if it confuses us, imagine the geriatric people that are paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. And that is their audience. And Amazon, they have their giant network of warehouses. Now they got the Whole Foods in their warehouses. They're trying to buy up all the JCPenney's and the Searses. And amongst all of that growth, there was one problem that they still have dodged until maybe next week. Because has this...
No, it's a month away now.
But it is, and we talked about this before, it's all hinged on good old Alabama.
Amazon warehouse workers to decide whether to form company's first U.S. union. That is slated for just about a month from now, a little less than a month. It's going to happen in Alabama. 6,000 workers. It wasn't super close, but there were more people that did not want to unionize than I expected. But this is, as we reported the last time this came up, which I think was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, this is likely just to be, the snowball that starts at the top of the mountain that eventually is a village-destroying avalanche by the end.
And while they are fighting unions, they are also deciding who can and cannot do business on their platform. This is perhaps an unusual version of deplatforming, but one of the most threatening when it comes to, income.
Amazon begins removing the deliberately mispronounced QAnon goods for sale after booting pro-Trump Parler from its cloud service.
QAnon.
I was like, have I been pronouncing that in my head the wrong way? But no.
Quality assurance non.
Yeah, I'm I'm just preemptively avoiding problems with the algorithm because that's how we live now. Join us on Patreon or Floatplane. Nervous laughter.
So they have T-shirts with slogans and stuff like that, and they saw several of these at the Capitol episode, and they immediately tracked them down. And I think this is all like snitches.
Yeah,
they go and find them on Amazon, and then they email.
The guy that was wearing the I don't want to say any of those words. The guy that was wearing the very offensive T-shirt, like Amazon should have, if they were going to do this, they should have already pulled that shirt. That should not have been a shirt that you could buy on Amazon in the first place, not a result of getting scrutinized.
I don't even know what the shirt is.
It was like
I know what you're talking about.
It was it was a camp, and it was not a fun
Summer camp
Yeah, it wasn't.
T-shirt, but not actually a summer camp.
And it's like, okay, you can sell that. Oh, it's getting attention now. We should not sell that. That is not acceptable.
Is that one of those things where it's like, celebrate history?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, okay, Amazon, that's a little disingenuous. Like, I have a problem with that. If you're not going to let people sell products like that, don't let people sell products like that. Don't wait until it becomes you know,
But they didn't know. I mean, there's
Yeah, I
so
was gonna
much
say,
on
there's
Amazon.
so much crap on there. Like, how are they supposed to police it?
Plus, you make that argument, but you can't make that argument because that is obviously offensive. But that's your decision. I agree with you. I agree with you, but it's your decision. And once you start allowing that, then it becomes whoever's emailing Amazon every day's decision. The Twitter warriors. And then that's just a living hell.
We have to come up with a term for the people that, because there is a certain class of person that really derives enjoyment from eliciting that kind of a response in people. And it's just, I don't really care. I just think it's dumb.
Edgelord.
Obviously,
An edgelord, like a 14-year-old punk kid.
we can't say this because of the algorithm, but it starts with a C and ends with the smallest puppy in the litter. Or rhymes with that. Actually, it doesn't end with that. It rhymes with that.
I was like, C Runt.
I thought you were talking about that character in The Emperor's New Groove for a second, but no.
What the hell is seen the Emperor's New Groove?
I've seen it. You just haven't seen it.
I stopped watching Disney movies after the glory days.
I remember it from when it first came out, so I'd probably get a little bit of a pass.
Well, maybe I can enjoy the Emperor's New Groove in my new Apple VR headset.
Apple's first VR headset is likely to be very expensive, very niche, and nothing to do with augmented reality, as we previously reported. So Bloomberg has a few more details over the last time we reported on this, and Apple is just going to try out the whole glasses with a heads-up display thing and see how that goes.
And if you are a big fan of the iMac, you have languished for many, many years because they really didn't bother to upgrade that product. But now, with the M1, the time has come.
Apple, of course, this is from Bloomberg, Apple is going to completely redesign the new iMac, and the screen is going to be different for like the standalone screen. It's going to be upgradable. There is literally no information of any substance at all in this Bloomberg article. Literally nothing.
But they're going to change the design of the case. That's the important part.
I mean, they kind of have a point because the iMac, like I've got a Sandy Bridge iMac that is so old that it's not even really supported. It'll still run modern Mac OS. You just have to force it. Apple just wasn't willing to put in the 15 minutes of work that it would take to get modern, Big Sur to work on a Sandy Bridge processor. It really was not a lot of work.
They want you to buy the new one.
Yeah, nothing to do with laziness.
Yeah.
That's just planned obsolescence right there.
And they pretty much have all looked the same since then. They've gotten thinner, but, the front vision, the look, pretty much the same.
If Apple can move the entire lineup to M1, how long before they break x86 on a future update?
If the Power Mac transition is anything to go by, they will still be selling Intel Macs at the time they break Intel Mac compatibility.
Oh, that's true. That's taking them a long time to flush all that garbage out of the system. And this one might slow them down a little bit more because it's a big number, even for Apple.
Apple fails to overturn VirnetX patent verdict, could owe $1.1 billion. I've looked at this. I kind of think their patent, it's a little bit patent trolly, but Apple has been so just
evil.
Yeah, we might have to go back to your word. They've just been so terrible in the way that they handle this. I almost think that a part of the reason that the judges are doing this is just because Apple has been so vindictive and just so difficult to deal with on this.
It has to do with VPNs, the patent, which is, you think it's like, that seems a little patent trolly, but it is Apple.
Boiler Snake agrees.
Snake has thoughts about that.
He hates patent trolls so much. He's had like 4 patents stolen that all had to do with percussion instruments.
If those patents hadn't been stolen, we would still see steam heat in use in residential homes today because it's clean, efficient.
Clean?
Yeah, steam heat.
What are you using to boil the water?
Well, you could use literally anything.
But that's not clean.
You could use solar to boil water. That's actually one of the more efficient ways to do solar.
It always cracked me up whenever somebody's talking about coal energy, because we live in coal country. This is like literally a lot of people around here have black license plates because it's like, I support the coal.
Coal keeps the lights on.
Yeah.
Right?
And so if you don't know how the coal generator works, they grind it into powder and then they burn. It's just like every other generator. They boil water and then giant clouds of steam come out the top. And they love to be like, no. that stuff coming out the top is pure water. It's perfectly clean. It's like, yeah, but you're venting the output from the furnace somewhere else. That's the part that's not clean. But most people don't realize that.
It's also a little bit radioactive because, that's millions of years of carbon that get trapped, and, well, other stuff gets trapped along with that. But, yeah, no. New house literally still has the coal-burning boiler in it, although it's not hooked up.
It'd be good for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could easily get it working.
Rehooked, yeah.
Well, the deep platforming is definitely one of the biggest stories, especially when we talk about social media. And we finally have Tim Cook coming out and taking questions and talking about why Parler was taken down.
CNN Business has the article if you want to read it. Tim Cook, why I kicked Parler off Apple's App Store. He said it's not free speech if it's inciting violence, and they didn't have any kind of a policy to respond to complaints, and that's just not responsible behavior, blah, blah, blah.
He did say that should they fix it, and I don't know exactly what that means.
I interpreted that to mean moderation service.
He was not against someday letting Parler back into the App Store. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I did, that application that I did, gosh, it's probably like 2 years ago now, that had user-submitted content. At that time, they would not let that application on the store unless it had a file a complaint button. It didn't have to work, but it had to be there.
And another sort of blast from the past for Apple. They're getting back. They did the ebook thing, then Amazon took over, and they did the podcasting thing, and then somebody else took over. But wait.
Apple plans podcasting subscription service in threat to Spotify. Well, I've got some good news for Apple. I don't think Spotify is going to be a threat much longer.
So this is going to be a monthly subscription, I guess. It's not going to be super expensive, but Spotify will let you listen ad-supported for free. I don't think that's in the plan here.
Spotify has not done well with the podcasting, though.
In fact, I noticed that Joe Rogan is back on YouTube already.
Huh.
Yeah, he put up a couple of back episodes starting this past week.
Was that always the plan, though? Like,
no.
You get the newest one on Spotify, and then you can watch it on YouTube later? Like what we do with Patreon?
No, well, the original plan was no full episodes on YouTube, but clips on YouTube, I think.
Oh.
But now, because he didn't post on YouTube for a while, and now all of a sudden they're back. And then when we see this headline, you got to wonder, is there a relationship here?
What happened? Spotify's big bet on podcasts is failing, Citi says. So Spotify wanted to be, your destination for podcasting. And it is sort of crazy that, everybody is getting into podcasting. And so now it's become an exercise
We say that.
in finding diamonds in the rough. Yeah, no, I was thinking it's like level 1, you're a diamond in the rough.
I don't know. We might be a gate, maybe. Maybe Citron.
Well, I'll tell you, we're just not the raw carbon poop that some of this other podcast nonsense is.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, Chris.
You continue first.
No, yeah, I insist.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say, I still think Spotify is like the best music service I've tried.
Absolutely. Yeah. They do a good job.
Not even a contest.
The search is way better, and the recommendations are actually not terrible.
Yeah.
They have a feature where you can say, I don't like this, but it's not everywhere. And I'm baffled by that. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you not let me say I don't like this? There's so much I don't like. But when I go to Spotify, I've found I'm a paying Spotify customer, and when I open up Spotify, it's because I want to listen to music. So I don't even think about it in terms of podcasts. YouTube is definitely...
I've downloaded some. Like, I've downloaded a couple to my phone for, like, hiking, but I almost never use it for that either. It's almost always music.
Isn't hiking about getting away from all that, Krista, getting into nature and stuff?
When you lay down at night, like, it's sometimes nice to listen to a podcast to help you drift off to sleep.
What about the crickets?
Or the coyotes, whichever one you want to hear. My husband, we were laying in bed the other night, and he's like reading, and says like, I heard something die last night. And I was like, wait, what? And there's been coyotes back behind our apartment. We've heard them for the last couple weeks, and I guess one got hold of one last night or the other night.
Wait.
But he just casually mentioned that, like, oh, I heard something die last night. He's like, I think the coyotes got something.
What did they get a hold of?
Oh, we don't know. We could just hear it suffering in the field.
Oh. How do you think that head to head, how does Rue do against the coyote?
Not well.
You don't think so?
Rue's doesn't have like an aggressive bone in her body. Maybe she was being attacked, but
What if you were being attacked?
I don't know that Rue would do anything. I think Rue would just like panic. She would do what I do, where she just flaps her hands and kind of like, like panics, but doesn't actually like attack the assailant.
So you think then that is nurture and not nature, right? Because I don't think she was born with that.
Maybe she has that like hunting instinct somewhere deep down, but because she's been raised by me, she just like, I don't know what to do. Oh,
I don't know. Maybe some kind of monitor. Maybe you could put some kind of monitor on your dog, and then if you detect an elevated heart rate or something, you got to run out and see if the coyotes are on her.
Or out there. She doesn't seem to respond to them. Like, we hear them fairly regularly, and she doesn't seem to care.
And if you don't have a dog, perhaps you can monitor yourself, because they're now saying that smartwatches have an interesting new feature.
Smartwatches can help detect the thing that you get infected with days before symptoms appear. Yeah, minor differences in your heart rhythm could be a thing.
Huh.
Now, here's the question. Can you monitor that if you're Apple? Because that goes into medical, right?
Yeah.
That's a dangerous situation.
Oh, Apple would say no. Apple would say that they're the only company that's worth trusting with your medical records.
But I'm saying, if my smartwatch can do this, is that not a medical device?
Yeah.
But is it? I don't think it counts, all right?
Apple does not have to obey HIPAA rules
exactly.
with
That's what
your
I'm saying.
exercise data, for sure.
So I don't know. I mean, it'd probably be good for your older family members, I guess.
And the Google Play Store already has about 50 applications that claim to detect that, but they're all malware. But Google Play Store doesn't care.
Yeah, they never have. LG. Have you ever had an LG phone?
Yeah. LG G5.
I've never used one.
It was a great phone. That's the one I'm always going on about because, it was the G3, G5. One of those had a removable battery. Like, it looks like a normal phone. It's sleek. It looks well engineered. It's well put together. But you can squeeze some clips on the bottom, and the bottom pops off, and you can replace the battery. It doesn't require anything special.
And that kind of has been their niche, is like really well made, sleekly designed phones in kind of the upper price tier. But they're saying, I don't know.
LG is considering exiting smartphones in 2021. LG has struggled to compete with Samsung, Huawei, and others. If we can't be the best, we don't want to participate at all. See, they've tried to do things like this fancy like swivel phone. I don't know what else to call it. And also at CES, they unveiled the stretch phone, but I don't think the stretch phone got enough. I was describing that before I saw it even, and I don't think that got enough fanfare. And so they're just like, it's not worth the money. I think they would have a product if they would just refocus on a nice smartphone with reasonable specs that's serviceable. People will buy that.
I don't know. I think the smartphone market is much more focused on like trends than the rest of the computer world.
Yeah, that might be true.
I'd say that's accurate.
Man, because some people are literally considering what are other people going to think about my choice in smartphone as they're purchasing a smartphone.
Do you think we'll ever see a point in time where somebody wants to make an iPhone compatible phone, and they do, but then like the European Union or some court system like that has Apple delineate what the cost of their operating system is versus the rest of their phone, and then just charge the company that wants to make a compatible iPhone the cost of the operating system?
No.
That would be a really interesting way to bring competition back to the market. Here's my generic off-brand iPhone.
Won't happen.
Yeah, probably not.
There's no chance Apple would let anybody else.
Stuff like that happened in the automotive industry, though, with some of the patents on the engine and things like that. People would patent an improvement to an engine, and then you could buy the engine separately, and that was sort of a thing that happened naturally as a result of market forces.
If you love to build little projects and deploy them, the Raspberry Pi is probably your friend. It's great. But it does have one huge limitation when it comes to, 3D print a little container and put your build in there and run your sensors out of it. And that is power, because you got to run an operating system on a Raspberry Pi. And if you're going to use a battery for that, then if you're looking for weeks and months, sorry, you're going to have to recharge that thing. So what's the solution? The price here is incredible.
Raspberry Pi Foundation launches a $4 microcontroller with a custom chip. So you get all that you see in the picture for $4. You press and hold the button as you plug it in with USB, and you can just copy files to it, and it'll run it. MicroPython and some other stuff. It's got its own sort of programming helper thing. But you can hook up a little tiny LCD screen to it because it's got all those general purpose I.O. pins. It's got analog input. It has a lot of features for I.O., interfacing other peripherals. You can build a lot of cool stuff with it.
And it's running the RP2040. That's right. Raspberry Pi is making their own chips.
Ooh. It's only got 264 kilobytes of RAM. But that's fine for MicroPython and some other stuff.
That'll open your garage door, turn on the sprinklers.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to have a relay, but...
You can DIY a bunch of smart home stuff.
If you'll think back, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Google made some waves. They had an AI ethicist. Is ethicist a word?
I think so.
Who was a little bit down on their whole ethics thing. She didn't feel like they were really, especially when it came to AI.
They were being ethically honest.
Yeah, she thought the AIs were a little bit biased, which, that's probably true. She maybe was a little bit annoying, and that didn't help, but they probably didn't handle that correctly, which really makes you scratch your head on this headline.
Bloomberg headline is Google Sidelines another AI researcher. This is the second one. So I read a little bit more into this, and it turns out that they were copying lots and lots of data, and that's what set off the flag. And so Google said, hey, you're not supposed to copy lots and lots of data. And she said, no, I have access to this.
Yeah.
So
they
let her go.
Remember the Waymo thing?
Yeah.
That's kind of...
Yeah.
And they went after that guy.
Yeah, so I think that Google is on much more sure footing with this dismissal than the previous one.
But the mob
Yeah.
is solidly against them on this.
Yes.
So I don't know how much...
I definitely think that first firing overall was a bit of a faux pas by Google. I think they could have handled that a lot better.
Well, yeah. Even just like, okay, let's talk about this instead of freaking out and pulling the trigger. But it does show how afraid of these people they are.
Yeah. Well, people, a lot of the time, any kind of establishment organization like that are afraid of people that are passionate. Like, the best thing is if you can get somebody that's really passionate about whatever it is that they're working on. And yeah, sometimes they're going to be difficult to work with, but 9 out of 10 times they're going to do a better job for you than anybody else will.
I don't know how I didn't put this in government. I guess because it was about cryptocurrency. But it definitely looks like if you're a Bitcoin holder and you're like, yeah, we're going to 100,000.
Not so fast.
This could really get in the way of that.
Treasury nominee Yellen is looking to curtail the use of cryptocurrency. She argues that many cryptocurrencies are used mainly for illicit financing. Nobody tell her that we still use cash in America.
Oh, she's firmly against that.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
When she was Fed chair, she was doing everything she can to kill that. How much wasted money do you think there is in all the stuff that got thrown away yesterday, as we're filming this yesterday, for the office of the president-elect branding?
It's probably easily in the millions of dollars.
Why did we need that?
We didn't. Especially now, because it's like, oh, we're going to have to penny pinch, and there's people that are starving and blah, blah, blah.
They should make him use that for the rest of his term.
The free food. Have you been through town when the free food thing is happening? That's gotten so out of control. They set up a second one on the other side of the railroad tracks, and it's also just out of control. And it's just no strings attached, free food.
Well, some people will just show up for free food, even if they don't need it.
But not to this level, though, because, like, there are lines just to get it.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, things are bad. I don't think anybody's arguing against that.
Yeah.
But it's all better now, right? I've been seeing a lot of headlines. It's like, oh, it's time to open back up.
I don't think so.
We speculated last week about Hyundai. Hyundai made a little press release, and they're like, we're working with Apple. And Apple is just kind of like, we don't talk about that. So everybody was wondering, is this real? Or are they just trying to boost the stock price? It turns out it's kind of real, but it's not the Hyundai brand itself.
Kia will lead Apple Car project work under Hyundai Motor, report says. The Korean report placing Kia as the brand that will lead the Apple Car work amid rumors that Hyundai Motor is close to finalizing a partnership with the tech giant. I'm sure that these kinds of leaks annoy Apple, And they probably would say something like, if you don't get your leaks under control, we can't partner with you because we literally don't want to spoil anything. And these companies are just not used to operating at that level of secrecy.
Is Kia, I've always thought Kia was considered a really budget brand of car.
Yeah.
That was always my assumption as well.
And
I don't know anything about cars.
That does not fit with the Apple.
I thought
vision.
about it, and I thought that makes perfect sense, though, if you're Apple. If you're Tim Cook and you're looking at this, and you're looking at what you want the Apple brand to be, it probably does make sense that you would partner with the car brand that's going to give you the most margin.
I wonder if they're going to use the Korean manufacturing for some of the stuff and just assemble it here.
I think it's going to be exactly like the computers. The computers underneath the hood, they're Kia, at least before the M1. The Apple specs for like a MacBook Pro or an iMac, it's basically the Kia of laptops. And then they put a really amazing amount of lipstick on it. It's just the same with the cars. I mean, look at the new Mac Pro. It's like $50,000, but it's garbage.
It's going to be tougher to hide with cars, though, because I think people have a better understanding of car performance and convenience and luxury versus electronics.
They don't understand that, the electronics has been gimped in a very specific way.
You start talking about CPU speeds and numbers of cores and caches, and most people don't know what it's like. I can't. You're rolling out all these, like giant product numbers. It's like, oh, it's got this CPU, and the average person is like, oh, I heard that was good, but they don't.
It's not that the car is good; it's a lifestyle car.
I guess it'll have an amazing entertainment system.
You open the doors to the car, and it's just full of lavender. Magical.
Over at GM. Fresh from the egg, just cleaning the egg off their face with the whole Nikola thing, they're doubling down with their robotic car investments.
Microsoft and GM are going to add $2 billion to Cruise for the robotaxi rollout. Wow, GM is they're just spraying money anywhere they can to try to get it's like, oh, we need this. Surely one of these hucksters will pan out.
Will it turn out to be an arterial spray? Because they're making some terrible decisions. My God, that logo. Nobody in the comments liked the logo. I haven't heard from anybody who liked it.
Isn't that their target audience?
Our comments?
Yeah.
GM?
Yeah.
Nah, it's more of the the blue collar type, good old boys. At the trucks.
Well, that logo definitely doesn't appeal to them.
No, God, no.
I don't. It's just like there are things you could have done to at least make it a little bit better, but just the gradients and the drop shadows and it just looked amateur.
It was bad. That was terrible. We are when did Cyberpunk come out? Is that November?
It's end of November, early December, I think.
So we've had time to ingest it, think about it, consider what happened during the big failure. And CD Projekt Red has spent internal time, obviously, looking it over, and the CEO has announced he knows what went wrong.
CDPR CEO blames in-game streaming for Cyberpunk's console problems. Native next-gen versions are pushed back to the second half of 2021 amid patching work. So what does he mean by streaming? So when you move from area to area in the game, it's loading stuff as it needs it. It's streaming in what it needs. But it turns out the consoles really struggle with that. And because consoles really struggle with that, things don't really come in the way that they need to. And so that's why everything looks blocky and bad.
He also talked about it was fine in the beginning, but the scope of the game kept increasing so much and the visuals kept getting better on the PC, and they couldn't make the old consoles stream it fast enough.
This is going to be a poster child for this company and other companies to build their games console first. So when we talk about the awful experience of a console port, this is pretty much the nail in the coffin for things that are not console ports from here on out. Every other game developer or game manufacturer is going to look at this and they're going to be like, do you want a repeat of CD Projekt Red? No, it's like, we're building for console first and then we'll port it to PC. And I think that does a disservice to the entire industry, because on PC, the visuals, game engine bugs aside, the visuals and functionality truly are incredible.
The delivery
I mean-
folks.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Krista, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, you kind of have the same thing like on the web development side, though. Like, you always build mobile first because that's what most people are gonna see your thing on. So, if your primary audience is console, like, as much as we don't like it as people who play on PC, I understand from a business perspective why they would do that.
They made a lot of money from the PC customers.
Yeah.
And they're the PC darlings.
Yeah.
So they really anger their base by doing this. They've probably made the right choice there. The delivery folks are still going strong, and people are still getting a lot of stuff delivered. But again, when you come into 2021, a lot of these job protections fell off, and these companies are wasting no time.
Instacart has laid off a bunch of people, 1,900 jobs, including all of the jobs that were unionized.
There were only 10.
Wow.
10 union guys in the whole place.
I wonder if that's going to happen with Amazon. I'm going to predict that as soon as that warehouse in Amazon in Alabama unionizes, that pretty much immediately Amazon is like, look at all these amazing robots. Go home.
Yeah. Well, they're already working on the robots, I'm sure. There's probably a secret warehouse that nobody's allowed to go to that's just for testing the robots.
Now, to be sure, I think that Amazon can definitely afford to pay its warehouse workers better. They're just not going to.
If you have just purchased an Apple M1, you might be feeling good about it, but there are some things that it can't do. Except now, there's one thing that we didn't think it could do that it can, but with a giant catch. This is a lie.
Ubuntu can run on Apple Silicon. Yay! Devs say it's completely usable. Yay! There's two giant catches. One, the graphic subsystem, which is completely undocumented, is basically unusable. So we can boot the kernel and everything is good. It uses something called Corellium. That's not terrible. That's actually pretty much okay. The other giant OMG WTF BBQ is that in order to do this, you have to agree to Apple's terms of service. You have to boot up your Mac, agree to the terms of service, create a user, and that's the only way that you're going to be able to run the program that is necessary to allow you to install third-party applications. Thanks, Apple.
Why would you buy an overpriced system like that and put Linux on it, which is not going to benefit from any of the performance tweaks?
I just...
So you can make a post on our forum, forum.level1text.com.
That's true. It's obvious that people are... we're moving into the security section here. It's obvious, I think.
Is it?
No, we're not. It should have been a transition. But the security-minded stuff is just blowing up because you had a bunch of things happen all at once. The WhatsApp thing was really big, and you've got, the Apple stuff going on. And
Or Google the baddies?
Yeah, people just seem to be finally waking up to this whole idea that's like, oh, I really need to try to find something that's not a big tech company to use. And they're just flooding into them.
DuckDuckGo surpasses 100 million daily search queries for the first time. That is an historic milestone during the same week when both Signal and Telegram saw a huge influx of new users. That's actually pretty great. Do you think now is the point in history where individual user privacy, like from here forward, user privacy will always be more important to the end user? Or do you think it'll still sort of continue the downward trend?
No, I think this is a temporary spike because it's in people's minds, but the lack of convenience, a lot of them will fall off.
The dead cat bounce of privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use DuckDuckGo for my search engine on all my machines. The only thing that I've found with it is like the maps for DuckDuckGo are garbage. So I constantly have to go back to Google Maps to look stuff up.
Yeah.
And also images can kind of be like hit or miss when you're doing a search. So, I don't know. I think an average user might not like having to make that compromise. So
their video search is terrible.
I've never even tried the video.
It's great because if there's an age restricted video, you can get past it by watching it on DuckDuckGo. I don't know how they do that.
Pro criminal tip.
But if there's like a series of them and you're like, oh, I'll just find the next one in the series by searching for, like almost the exact same name, it can't get it. It's not good at
Are you listening, DuckDuckGo engineers? Fix that use case.
Yeah, but the regular
fix the
search is
loophole.
great. I've never had any issues with like just looking other stuff up on DuckDuckGo.
Yeah. So I don't know. I use it. I don't always use it, but if my search is at all risky and I think I'd rather not have Spectrum know about this.
I use it for almost all my searches.
This one is an interesting story. It's both sides have some argument. Obviously, it's an incendiary word that's being thrown around here. But the scary part about it is how quickly they acted without like really even looking at what happened.
Yeah.
This was the same as Google with the AI girls.
Yeah.
These knee-jerk reactions will get you in trouble in the big tech world.
GitHub admits significant mistakes were made in the firing of Jewish employee. Why? Well, we reported on it last week. They said something in global chat about the Capitol riot, and it was just like 4 words. And
They said, watch out for Nazis.
yeah, so...
And then there was a guy who was going to the thing, and he was like, hey, I'm not a Nazi. You can't call me a Nazi. And the HR department, I guess, was like, well, he's right. You can't do that. But then this guy was Jewish, and he was like, I'm Jewish, and I can prove to you with these screenshots that Nazis were at the Capitol riots.
Yeah, and it's like, I did see the Nazi flag flying in a couple of those pictures.
Oops.
Our monetization is
Oh, that's right.
gone.
Oh,
It's
wow.
gone. Whoops.
So they're going to hire him back if he'll come back, but he might just go call a lawyer. So we'll see. Sure, we'll have a follow-up on that. Another player has entered the space game. They got a little bit different way of doing it, but hey, satellites are still getting put in the sky, and that's what matters.
Virgin Orbit launches rocket off a 747 aircraft, puts 9 satellites in space. If you're the pilot of that 747, you got to be a little bit nervous, right?
You think he was watching the Challenger footage the night before?
It's like I'm in a thin aluminum straw filled with jet fuel, and there's a rocket on top of me. What could possibly go wrong?
They probably run those fuel tanks pretty empty on that flight, don't you think?
Yeah,
it's
probably.
just up and back down. But these satellites were student satellites. They weren't anything important, which is probably why they were on the test run. But they all made it up there. Everything worked great. So that's cool. Another competitor in the space game is never a bad thing. Moving on to the robot section. Well, Krista, I really love this building design. We'll talk about that afterwards. But China, they have long been known to lag a little bit in the field of AI. Even though when it comes to technology, it's such a high-tech place. For whatever reason, they can't get their head around advanced AI, and they're looking to change it.
This Chinese lab is aiming for big AI breakthroughs. China produces as many artificial intelligence researchers as the U.S., but it lags in key fields like machine learning. The government is hoping to make up grounds. The idea is basically everybody's going to live in this compound. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. It's an enormous compound. They're going to work on all sorts of things like GPT-3. Like they described GPT-3 without calling it GPT-3. At least that was my takeaway.
Well, that's going to be their version of it, which means they're going to steal all that technology.
Steal, borrow, appropriate some researchers. It could go any which way.
So, Krista, this building,
Right.
do you like it?
Yeah, it's all right. I like the big modern glass. It's a little bit like brutalist as well, where it's it's got the big heavy
It's
lines.
communist China.
Yeah,
It looks kind of like a computer from the 80s.
What
it
are
does
those?
with the tan color.
What are those lines? Are those
Windows, I thought.
holes or vents or something?
I thought they were Windows. Like
Oh, like at the top.
But these are big windows, though. Those would be small windows, right?
yeah.
It could just be like crenellations or something to give it more visual interest, so it's not just like one blank facade.
Could be. Well, we need some F's in the chat. There's still people who don't want to be called chat, and I'm sorry. You're the chat. Even though it's not a live chat, you're still the chat.
You're the chat.
And we need F's in that chat because a hero is no more.
Mars digger bites the dust after 2 years on the red planet. Scientists in Germany spent 2 years trying to get their heat probe, dubbed the Mole, to drill into the Martian crust. It did not.
So the way I understand it, see if you took this the same way, they expected, like with a screw or a drill, the threads need to get purchase in whatever it is. Like if you're starting a screw, it's real hard at first, and it's like, oh, once the threads get in there. Apparently the Martian soil is too airy and light, and it can find no purchase for its drill grooves.
Yeah.
So they were never able to get it down there. They tried to hammer it this last time. I think they just burnt most of whatever they had left in battery. It's like, come on. Couldn't do it.
Man, that's kind of disappointing, isn't it? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just sitting on the surface of Mars.
Well, that might mean that the surface of Mars is basically rock with a thin layer of dust.
I don't think they got down far enough to find anything but the useless sandies, like you just can't drill it.
It's like here where it's like, I'm going to dig up something from my garden. Oh, I've hit bedrock after an inch.
Yeah. And NASA, they are trying to get back into the rocket game. They don't want to be outdone by all these private companies. That's embarrassing. They got the full weight of the U.S. government behind them, right?
Glorified cheerleaders, I think is what I said.
But
NASA fires a test of the SLS rocket ahead of the move to Florida, but the engine shut down early. So they were hoping for at least a 4-minute test. It was designed to last 8 minutes. It made it just about a minute.
The software, they knew there was a problem, but they were like, all right, let's just let it run. Maybe it'll be okay. And the software said, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was like a problem with rocket number 4, but that's okay. Like if it was just a problem with rocket number 4, it would have kept running, but there was some other issue. They're analyzing the data now.
Those clouds are just like mesmerizing.
You think Musk had himself a nice little chuckle, maybe a glass of wine?
Yeah,
so you read that?
Yeah. It is funny though. I mean, like you remember a couple of years ago when people were like, "We've got the battery breakthrough," and he's like, "No, you don't," and then. Sure enough, they didn't.
I saw 2 battery stories this week while I was putting these stories together, and I'm like, I'm not putting them in there. You're lying to me. There's
Every
never,
time.
yeah. It's always fun when AI tries to do something new, or it takes human knowledge as we know it and is not given any rules about how to apply that knowledge, and it comes up with something crazy. We've seen a lot of this. This is one of the most functional I think we've ever seen.
Google used artificial intelligence to create 2 new mashup desserts based on baking search data. Meet the khaki.
That's a cakey.
Khaki.
Oh.
Khaki.
Why would it be khaki?
I don't know. Half cake, half cookie. And the breaky, half bread, half cookie.
I don't know why, but breaky sounds delicious to me.
The description of both of these sound delicious. It's like a cake, but it tastes like a cookie. It's like, I'm down for that.
Oh, that's just a Pinterest photo. So there is, I guess that's the cakey, cookie and cake, and there's the recipes if you want to try these for yourself.
Maybe we can get the Twitch fans to bake that and then mail it to us, because I'm too lazy to do that.
Oh, these requires yeast. Meh.
Well, I thought you wanted to show off your fancy kitchen. What better way?
Maybe in a couple of weeks
to make a cakey.
Maybe in a couple of weeks once I'm less busy.
Another
The
AI.
cake doesn't require yeast. The breaky does.
Which one did you prefer, Krista? You're a big baker these days.
Yeah, but we don't use yeast for any of the breads we make.
Oh.
We have sourdough, which just uses like yeast in there, and then I do beer bread as well.
Is that a moral stance that you're taking? Like, why wouldn't?
It's just a pain in the butt to like actually like get hold of, and it's like one more extra step, and it's like,
oh, is there still a big? Can you still not buy it?
I haven't checked in a while, but it was hard to find at the start of
I think it's okay
everything. Yeah.
So Facebook has another AI, but this one is not looking for bread recipes. This one is basically spying on your medical data.
Yeah.
I don't know about this.
This left me with more questions. Facebook uses AI to predict if patients in the pandemic will need more care. Using X-ray images, 3 AI models Facebook developed could help hospitals decide how to allot resources as the number of cases rise. All right, so the first question is, why was Facebook involved with this?
The other question is, what's the morality of that kind of triage in terms of like, if I go and I'm healthy. I'm not young, but I'm probably on the young end of people who would be threatened by that. And they're like, oh, sorry. There's 5 guys ahead of you who are way worse. Go back home.
Oh, no, it's literally already that way.
Yeah.
Even just like, I have something, I'm sick at an inconvenient time is already very much a game of numbers. Is like,
I know somebody who they're trying to get a surgery,
yeah,
but it's not critical, but they are in pain.
Yeah, they're
And
just like, no.
It's been, I mean, it was like December last year they were trying to do that, and it still hasn't happened.
Yeah. We had that story a couple of weeks ago about somebody's surgery that was bumped because it was non-life threatening and they died of it.
Wow. And this one is just sort of a speculation, but it's hard to argue with, right? Can you offer any counterpoints to this?
The only counterpoint let's do the headline. Calculations show that it will be impossible to control a super intelligent AI. The idea of AI overthrowing humankind has been talked about for many decades, but we're just not going to be able to control it. All right. So the good news is that like GPT-4 or 5 or 6 or whatever Google is working on that has that trillion parameter model, consciousness is not going to arise out of those models.
No, but I mean, they're not talking about that.
Well, it would be possible for a human being to build an AI that's basically like infect every computer on the entire planet Earth, and, it would go to town looking for vulnerabilities, problems in code, side channel attacks.
I don't think you're taking in the scope of their argument, though, because they're literally arguing, you're analyzing this as if you understand it. But they're saying, like, if this is a black box, like many of them are, and it gets to the point where even we don't understand it and it's just doing its own thing, that's where it gets scary.
I mean,
it's probably, we might not see it in our lifetime.
Yeah, okay. If we've advanced to that point, then okay, maybe. But even like the GPT-3, like it's not enough of a black box that we won't figure it out eventually. Like the physics thing, I'm really excited about the AI that has the quick way to calculate the model of the universe, because it obviously knows some math or knows some parameters or knows something we don't. Because like if you look at special relativity and like the components of the equations that Einstein came up with at non-relativistic speeds, it basically just becomes Newtonian physics. And once you see that, it's like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And an AI has already seen, the relativistic component of the Newtonian thing, but for some cosmological scale equation. But we haven't figured out what it saw, just that it's doing the calculations quickly and more efficiently than anything else. So yeah, it is a black box, but we just have to reverse engineer it to kind of figure it out.
Assuming it'll let you reverse engineer it.
I mean, those models, we don't have computers that have enough RAM and computational horsepower, even in the supercomputers, too.
But again, you're limiting this by what you know.
Yeah, if it's like 5 or 10 years from now, who knows? Google's tensor processing cores, like they're doing custom silicon, no idea what's going on there. That could lead to something scary, maybe.
Well, Friday, I guess we're coming with social media
and nonsense.
Yeah,
we haven't done social media.
Yeah, we did robot
today.
today.
What a strange week.
That is a weird week. We usually don't do social media at the very end.
That's one of
it fell.
It's one of the least strange weeks we've had in
many
years.
In recent memory. It's true.
We do have a lot of news stories, though.
Yeah, it seems like the news has switched off of one topic and back onto a myriad of topics.
Oh, Lord.
But anyway, we'll see you then.